please support us on Patreon. More on that at the end of the video.
Data centers preceded the AI explosion, as most of us know. The World Wide Web took off in the mid-1990s. The web's rapid growth drove surging demand for computing servers to host websites and increasingly online applications and services. That in turn expanded the need for data centers to serve as homes for those servers to deploy and interconnect millions of servers from across the world. In the early to mid 2000s, we began hearing about cloud technology, which is basically computing services, including servers, storage, databases, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence over the internet or the cloud, which took advantage of economies of scale. And it saw the rise of Amazon Web Services, or AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud. These developments led to bigger and bigger facilities and more recently to hyperscale data center construction. In the last 5 years, what are mainly being built are absolutely massive data centers for artificial intelligence or AI, for extremely high-speed computing needed for AI training and inference at unprecedented scales. There are nearly 4,500 data centers in the United States, accounting for about 45% of all facilities globally, just in this one country. About a third of all US data centers are located in just 3 states, Virginia, Texas, and California. Northern Virginia is the largest hyperscale data center hub in the world. Standard data centers may have a few thousand servers. These new hyperscale facilities exceed 5,000 servers and can go up to hundreds of thousands of servers and can occupy millions of square feet. One hyperscale data center campus can demand anywhere from 200 to more than 500 megawatts of electricity, which is as much as hundreds of thousands of American homes need. There are approximately 600 to 650 operational hyperscale data centers in the US, which is 54% of the total worldwide number. So more than half of the hyperscale data centers are in this nation. These hyperscale data centers are already pushing up electricity bills for working people. Data centers not only use up insane amounts of electricity, they also distort the flow of electricity to homes, increasing the risk of electrical fires and blackouts. Hyperscale data centers also consume millions of gallons of water daily, sometimes leaving surrounding residences with dry taps. They cause air pollution, water pollution, sound pollution, all of which have negative impact on the working people nearby, and which come at a time when the climate crisis is already at a breaking point. No wonder that 7 out of 10 Americans oppose the data centers, and there is massive opposition to the proliferation of AI. AI is now implicated as the main driver of mass tech layoffs. In total, there have already been 150,000 layoffs in the tech industry this year alone. This year, in other words, has already become a year of a layoff bloodbath. On March 31st, between 20,000 and 30,000 Oracle workers, roughly 18% of the company's global workforce, woke up to a cold 5-line email from the Oracle leadership at 6 a.m. No phone call, no meeting with HR, no warning from their managers, just a message as they woke up telling them their roles had been eliminated and today was their last working day and that their access to company systems had already been cut. Oracle is not a company in distress. It posted a 95% jump in profits last quarter with over $6 billion in a single quarter. The principal owner of Oracle stock, Larry Ellison, who's an arch Zionist, owns $200 billion in wealth and is the 6th richest person in the world. These layoffs are about mega profits, billionaires and multimillionaires hoarding wealth and redirecting tens of billions of dollars into AI infrastructure while discarding the very workers who built the company. Oracle is far from an exception. It's also Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Salesforce, Ericsson, Block, Intel, Pinterest, Autodesk. The list goes on. The super rich people who own these corporations plan to spend nearly $1 trillion more on AI infrastructure over the coming years, and the layoffs are becoming a primary avenue for their fundraising. On top of that is the fact that the bosses are also trying to replace human workers with AI driven machines. All the way from drivers to actors and writers to teachers to tech workers face the prospect of whole areas of employment completely disappearing. The capitalists who run Goldman Sachs and OpenAI have given sinister numbers, claiming that they think that 18% or 300 million jobs globally can soon be automated by AI. Needless to say, we can be sure, very sure, that none of the automation is being used to raise the living standards of working people, much less train and create new jobs for the millions of workers made jobless. One crucial victory against a hyperscale data center project was won recently in Pekin, Illinois. We're going to hear more about that later. Working people in Pekin got organized and fought back against a planned 321-acre hyperscale data center. Workers Strike Back, the organization I co-founded, was proud to join this fight. Our movement went up against big tech and real estate billionaires and multimillionaires, and also the Democratic and Republican parties, and we defeated them. Yes, it can be done. When we fight, we can win. But we also need a sober perspective about what's needed. Protests by working people have shut down the plans for about 48 of these data centers, equaling roughly $68 billion of projects. But we are talking about over 670 more hyperscale data centers in the pipeline and countless more layoffs. And it's much more than that, which I'll come to in a bit. The super rich are determined to ramp through the data centers because of the trillions of dollars of wealth that are at stake with AI. AI chip maker NVIDIA recently became the world's first company with a stock market valuation of $5 trillion. Similarly, Microsoft and Apple have hit $4 trillion. OpenAI could reach a $1 trillion valuation later this year. Over the next 2 years, 4 of the biggest players in AI, Amazon, Meta, Google, and Microsoft, are expected to spend nearly $800 billion more on AI-related capital expenditure, such as data centers and chips and servers inside the data centers. Note that $800 billion is only $200 billion shy of $1 trillion. And what is $1 trillion? It's 10 to the power of 12. What does it mean, actually? If you made $1 every second for just over 11 days, that would add up to $1 million. Obviously, none of us is getting any of that money. I'm just giving you the math of it. If you made $1 every second for just over 11 days, that would add up to $1 million. If you made $1 every second for up to 32 years, that would add up to $1 billion. If you made $1 every second for 31,700 years, that would add up to $1 trillion. Just to give a sense of quite how much wealth we are talking about. The capitalist class, and we should not be surprised by this, the capitalist class will do anything they need to protect their profits, especially of this scale. They will use the might and the violence of the state against us. The capitalist state and its institutions, the police, the courts, US Congress, state legislatures, city councils, all of these exist to enforce the ability of the capitalist class to make maximum profits and to brutally exploit all of us. They will wait us out when possible. When not, they will intimidate, threaten, and attack us. They will try to crush movements. Billionaires and multimillionaires will threaten to bring lawsuits on any municipality that dares to carry out a moratorium on data centers, as it just happened in a small Minnesota town named Inver Grove Heights, where they are being threatened by a lawsuit right now. They will target lead protest activists, as they did just days ago against an activist named Harley DeLander in Dixon, Illinois, who is now facing felony charges just for organizing a protest. They're also buying up Democrats and Republicans in this midterm election year. You're seeing AI money and crypto money figuring in PACs. So we should be very clear that neither are the Democratic and Republican parties on our side, nor is the state and its institutions on our side. The vast majority of members of Congress in both parties have taken big money from big tech, including our main opponent, Adam Smith. Now they're trying to smear the anti-data center movement as anti-technology or backward-looking. We are now being called anti-tech extremists. Did you hear that? We're all supposedly anti-tech extremists. We have to call this out for what this is. Rank political gaslighting.
Right.
And we have to remind people the problem is not technology, it is who controls it. Just to put this idea into perspective, only in the 21st century, after all this development and innovation under capitalism, only 2 billion people, 2 out of the 7+ billion people today in the world have access to washing machines and washing linen and clothing for the remaining 5 billion people in the world, which is mostly done by women who spend many hours a day in the heavy burden and time-consuming job and drudgery of looking for water, heating it, and washing it by hand. This is what we mean by the problem is not technology, the problem is who owns and controls it. The data center and mass layoff juggernaut is not a machines versus humans war. And we will often hear this, and we have to tell people, it is not machines versus humans. This is not a science fiction novel. This is class war by the capitalists, the billionaires and multimillionaires, against billions of working and poor people. That's why ending this juggernaut will require an all-out class war back against the bosses. And our movements will need leaders who have proven that they have the stomach to go to class war back on the capitalist class and to win. In this race, Adam Smith is a straight-up corporate guy. I mean, he's been in office for nearly 30 years, which is longer than many of our volunteers have even been alive. And that's how long he's been an ardent servant of the billionaire class. The same can be said about the Republican candidate, Doug Bassler. Of course, he's much more openly pro-corporate. And then, as Justin mentioned, the other Democrat, Melissa Chowdhury, she has happily proclaimed herself to the Democratic establishment that she is a team player. We are not going to win any victories against the injustices associated with AI, data centers, and mass layoffs with candidates like this. Our campaign, we are fighting for a moratorium on data centers nationally. None of the other candidates are calling for any of this. We are also fighting for a public sector living wage jobs guarantee funded by taxing the rich in order to counter the mass layoffs. Because what the billionaires do is hold joblessness and unemployment against working people. We have to counter that by creating public sector unionized jobs in order to generate socially beneficial work, which is building roads and bridges and other infrastructure, making sure that teachers are trained, making sure that we have retraining for fossil fuel workers into the clean energy sector. I am the only candidate fighting for any of these things. And I'm the only candidate also fighting for the democratic public ownership of data centers, which I'll come to again in a second. Now, AOC and Bernie Sanders, Bernie Sanders is a senator, AOC is a congresswoman. They're both so-called progressives. They brought a bill for a data center moratorium. That's a good thing. But we know how this goes. These bills brought by so-called progressive Democrats, what happens to these bills is that the Democrats refuse to build the mass movements that are needed to fight for them. These bills never even get voted on, let alone they win. These Democrats could not even get a $15 an hour minimum wage or even any minimum wage increased passed in the last 20 years. Why? Why? To win anything, they would need to fight against the super rich and the establishment of their own party to do it effectively, to actually win. If they were serious about winning, as we are, they would need to do what I did in my 10 years at the Seattle City Council, which is what I used my office to organize militant mass movements of working people to force the super rich and the Democratic Party establishment to concede. Because it is only when you create a real threat to the political careers of those politicians and a threat to the system they represent that we win any significant change.
That's right.
And in a rare moment of honesty, AOC explained why she couldn't do what I have done. She said that if she did, she didn't refer to me because she pretends we don't even exist, but what she said was that if she actually fought for anything, there would be, this is a quote from her, reputational and relational harm for her with the power brokers in her party. And she's right. And the reason that bothers her, I'm not looking for reputation and relation with the genocidal parties of the billionaire class. But she is, because she is a careerist, as are virtually all Democrats. We are not going to win anything by electing and re-electing careerist politicians. We need at least one fighter in the US Congress. And why is all of this even more potent? AI has now become a central component of war. This is another reason we need a serious strategy, and that is to understand the connection between AI and war. The capitalists certainly don't care that AI will eliminate hundreds of thousands of jobs or make our lives difficult. They don't care about that. In fact, they prefer that because it enables them to eliminate labor costs and maximize profits, and it enables them to keep labor even more subjugated. If we face even worse conditions, they feel we'll just keep our head down and not challenge them. But they also don't care about thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people getting slaughtered in the wars. All of which, the wars and the genocide, all of this are also tools for mega profits for the capitalist class. AI corporations, Palantir and Anduril, have got a total of $10 billion and $20 billion worth of massive contracts, respectively, from the Pentagon. The Pentagon also handed out a $500 million contract just last month to AI corporation Scale, which is now owned by Mark Zuckerberg's corporation Meta. This is a 5-fold increase over their previous $100 million contract. Meta's bosses and wealthy shareholders acquired this windfall contract at the same time that they carried out their most recent round of mass layoffs, firing 8,000 workers, which included 3,000 in California and 1,400 here in Washington state. And you saw Mark Zuckerberg also had the nerve to park his super yacht in Lake Union just right after he carried out the layoffs. And so who is going to stand up to all these billionaires? And by the way, Trump's so-called Golden Dome Homeland Defense architecture is also powered by Scale AI, which is now owned by Meta. So any temptation anybody might have to think that, oh, Mark Zuckerberg, yeah, he may be a billionaire, but he's a liberal, isn't he? He's the Democratic guy. No, they support both parties. The billionaires support both parties, and it's purely a matter of pragmatic and tactical convenience which party they support more at a given moment. So whom are we going to look to for leadership to actually fight them? Look at our main opponent, Adam Smith. Look at his recent votes. In December, he voted for $906 billion worth of war spending, handing it on a golden platter to Trump. And a majority of House Democrats and a majority of Senate Democrats voted yes on that bill. Just days ago, there was a new war funding bill which Adam Smith proudly put forward alongside, he's the ranking member in the House Armed Services Committee. So Adam Smith and the chair of the House Armed Services Committee, Republican Mike Rogers, together proudly put forward jointly a bill that would give $1 trillion new for war. It's absolutely disgusting. And on top of that, it would engage in fusing of the US and Israeli militaries and provide, super escalation of weaponry, cyber AI and biotech weaponry for Israel. You know what they say about bipartisanship? When Republicans and Democrats are bipartisan, the workers get screwed. Don't forget that. And so he's doing all of this. And then 2 days ago, there was a resolution that, if passed, would have mandated all US forces out of Lebanon in 7 days. And what do you think Adam Smith did? He voted against the resolution, as along with 116 other Democrats. 117 Democrats voted, House Democrats voted against this bill. So 2 things here. One is, again, another example of political gaslighting, because at the same time that Adam Smith is passing these bills and refusing to vote yes on even very mild, I wouldn't even call it anti-war bills, but mild stepping back of the troops or anything like that, he has the nerve to make TikTok videos saying how much we need diplomacy. We need to tell him, nobody's buying your fucking shit. But the other thing that all of this reveals is that, tragically, Adam Smith is not an outlier. He is one of many, many, many Democrats who are warmongers, for the simple reason that the Democratic Party, like the Republican Party, is one of the 2 most powerful warmongering parties of the global billionaire or capitalist class. That is why this is happening. It's no mystery, which is also why we have to fight like hell for our election, to get into the general election, because we know that if it's a Democrat or a Republican, the writing is on the wall. And let me also be clear. You will hear Adam Smith talk about veterans. He will wax eloquent about how these trillions of dollars that he gives to war, they're not really for war, they're for veterans. Let's be very clear. The veterans in the United States have been badly treated by both the Democratic and Republican parties. They don't care about veterans any more than they care about the rest of the working class. If you looked at the suicide rate among veterans, it would be absolutely shocking. And we have veterans amongst here ourselves where they are barely able to pay their rent. Even with full healthcare benefits from the Veterans Department, they are barely able to afford groceries and their medication for diabetes and so on. All of this shows that we have to fight against both parties of the billionaire class. And all of the data on the data centers and AI shows how deeply and widely AI is getting enmeshed in the military apparatus of capitalist states like Israel and the United States. They are also good illustrators because of both the Democratic and Republican parties as purveyors of imperialist wars, because these corporations bankroll the election campaigns of both those parties. Let's tie all of this together quickly by looking at who owns most of the value of all these weapons, the weapons manufacturing corporations, the AI and tech corporations, and the banking corporations. All of these mega corporations are owned by the richest of the rich in the entire world. Most of these massive corporations are owned by the same handful of so-called asset manager corporations on Wall Street, like Vanguard, which has $12 trillion in assets, and BlackRock, which has $13 trillion in assets. And remember how much $1 trillion is. They have $12 to $13 trillion. So in other words, the same small elite club, and it's not just American billionaires and multimillionaires, it also includes billionaires and multimillionaires from my home country, India, from Israel, from the United Arab Emirates, from Jordan, from Qatar, from Bahrain, from the United Kingdom, from Germany, and so on and so forth. So it is an international capitalist class. So all of these people have trillions of dollars at stake in AI, and they are making AI an increasingly central component of war. And they're also stating AI as the principal reason for the mass layoffs. AI is also increasingly the backbone of ICE terror. All of this means that for working people fighting AI, the AI-related mass layoff, the data centers, the ICE terror, and fighting to end the genocide and the wars, these are all related struggles. The common denominator in all of this for working people is the necessity of defeating the billionaires and multimillionaires and their rotten system of capitalism. Adam Smith has the distinction of being the top Democrat being funded by Palantir and Anduril, which profit from war and surveillance AI. And I am the only candidate fighting to shut down ICE and the detention centers. Now, I'll just end by saying this. There are growing and worrying signs that the optimism, for the billionaires, that is not for us, won't pan out. An MIT report found 95% of organizations surveyed are getting no return on their AI product investments, and there's more to that, which I don't have time to get into. But all of this shows that it is almost inevitable that there will be an AI-related recession. I mean, it's inevitable that there will be a recession, period, because that's in the nature of capitalism. But the proximate causes of recessions always differ. But it's almost certain that it's going to happen. Well, our campaign is the only campaign that has declared clearly that when there is a recession, working people will not be made to pay for the recession. The recession should be paid for by Wall Street and the billionaires. And, right now, the situation is that the billionaires are actually quite scared. So are the Democrats and Republicans. They're quite scared that people are so angry that things might get out of their control. Their control meaning the control of the rich. So they're trying to, they're using both the carrot and the stick. I already talked about the stick, which is all the attacks and intimidation and arrest threats that they're making. They're also using the carrot. There was a meeting just days ago between OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and Senator Bernie Sanders, because, as I said, the capitalists are afraid. They're looking to placate with false hopes. And Altman, this billionaire, tells Sanders that, he wants the public to have equity in the tech corporations. And so Sanders asked him, and good on Sanders for doing that, he said, that the public needs 50% stake in the companies. So Altman said, well, I don't know if I can support that, but I still want to work with you to advocate the general idea. Now, unlike Sanders, we have to be crystal clear. We cannot afford to fall for the stuff like this. The capitalist class is not about to give the working class 50% or any percent stake in their companies. Altman wants to meet because they are trying to find a way to stem the mass anger without giving up an inch for the working class. And that is why we, as revolutionary socialists, are saying that there is no real solution to this crisis that faces American working people and humanity other than taking the big corporations into democratic public ownership of workers so that we can decide how technology should be deployed and what should be funded. And the only way of getting there is for us to have avenues for massive historic breakthroughs for working class struggle. And that is what this campaign is all about. This campaign is not about building any person's career. It is about building avenues, breakthroughs for fight back. So I hope you will join us. The next 2 months are do or die months because the next 2 months are going to decide whether we move to the general election or not. So I hope you're going to join us in fighting as hard as we can so that we can achieve that solidarity. The problem we face is, as Joe was saying, and as Logan was saying, that the ruling class, which owns all the institutions, which includes the media, they recognize, because we have been on the city council for 10 years, they have seen what we have done. They know that when I say revolutionary socialist, I actually mean revolutionary socialist. I'm not just saying revolutionary socialist. And so they have no interest in having our movement in Congress. And the way they are dealing with it is by doing just a media blackout. And so that's why even when you Google it, it's hard to find our campaign. That is what we are up against. We are also up against another type of crime that is being committed by labor leadership. I don't know how many of you heard, actually I announced this at our last town hall because it happened that very day as we were having our town hall, that the leadership of the Washington State Labor Council decided to endorse Adam Smith. They didn't even invite us for any discussion with their membership or anything like that. But, it is, and also we heard that the leadership of the Washington Education Association, which is actually Joe's former union, and Joe has been a fighter in that union for many years, that the leadership of that union also endorsed Adam Smith. And we are probably going to see other unions endorse Adam Smith or maybe Melissa Chaudhry. We have to ask, what is the role that's being played by the labor leadership when they do these things, when there is an actual proven fighter for the working class in the race? It shows us that the labor leadership is, most of them anyway, the overwhelming majority of the labor leadership are not on our side. They are what we call business unionist labor leaders, meaning that they see that they have made their own peace with the capitalist system, which also means making peace with the bosses, with the capitalist class, and their two parties. And so it is not surprising to see that most of the labor leadership is in lockstep with the Democratic Party. And you can see what they do when workers come up, union members come up for contract renewal. There is no fight. The word you hear is bargaining. You don't hear the word fight. I hate the word bargaining. You know why? Because it's completely misleading. There is no bargaining with the billionaires who have all the wealth, all the power, all the political clout. The only way we can win anything is when we organize and tip the scales against the bosses. That is why this campaign is so important. This campaign also needs to respond to many genuine people who might think, well, I agree with everything you're saying, but I don't get involved in electoral fights. I don't do electoral because electoral is a dead end. I do movements. That is a false dichotomy, my friends, because what we need is breakthroughs for the working class. Our $15 fight, the fight that eventually became, that gave Seattle the highest minimum wage in the nation, the fight that was built here in the Seattle area through my city council office and gave tens of millions of American workers substantial raises that have been a crucial lifeline for them as they get pummeled by this merciless cost of living crisis. That was a labor victory. It was a labor victory. It was a historic working class victory. But it did not come from the labor leadership. It came from our revolutionary socialist city council office that organized with the rank and file of the union movement. So yes, the rank and file of the union movement and some rare labor leaders were part of that fight. But in fact, the majority of the labor leaders, what they did was be gatekeepers, meaning obstacles to that fight. So let's not make the fatal mistake of believing in this false dichotomy between elections and other movements. What we need are breakthrough victories for the working class. And at this moment, the majority of the labor leadership, and has been for decades actually, it is a tragic situation in the labor movement, but at this moment, the overwhelming majority of the labor leadership is business unionist, and they are playing a gatekeeping role. So it is our obligation to our fellow working class people that we recognize that and understand that in order to win breakthroughs, we will need a fight back like the one this campaign represents. And I don't care where you live, this campaign is your campaign and you need to embrace it as such. But a special responsibility lies on the shoulders of those of us who are able to canvass in person in Congressional District 9. That means all of us who already live here in or near District 9 at driving distance or carpool distance from District 9. It also means those of us who are able to come here from out of state and help us, like Clement, who is visiting us here from the Bay Area and who's spending his time here campaigning for us. That's the kind of working class solidarity and fight back that we need, because what we face is not a barrier that most people don't like us, but we just have to convince them to like us. Like how Biden was trying to convince everyone, Bidenomics is good for you. Geez, don't you just get it? Don't you get it? Bidenomics is good for you when people are barely able to pay their bills. No, this campaign is hugely popular among working class people. The problem we face is that there are hundreds of thousands of working people out there who don't know yet that our campaign exists, and there are hundreds of thousands of people who don't vote, especially in the primary election, because they've been so disgusted by politics, and how could they not be? But this campaign is a rare historic opportunity for them to buck that trend and send a big fuck you to the billionaire class. And that is why there's a very huge obligation on the shoulders of those of us who are here in person or who can join us here in person, as many others are going to be joining in the next 2 months, that we go out there and do every possible shift we can. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, and we've been through these campaigns so many times. I am not exaggerating when I say that for the next 2 months, in June and July and early August, until primary night on August 4th, we have to wake up every morning thinking, how many shifts can I do? How many posters can I put up? How many voters can I speak to? How many voter IDs can I collect today? I am dead serious. Those are the questions we have to wake up with every morning, because this is where the rubber hits the road. Our campaign may be as popular as it wants to be, but if we don't see it in the votes, we don't get to win. And do we want to win? If the working class wants to win, then these are this is how it's laid out. We have to fight hard. The billionaire class doesn't need to fight because they own everything. We have to. So we have to fight really hard. And I'll just say one other thing, which is reiterating something that Joe said, that a lot of genuine people will say, when they hate Adam Smith, they'll say, please, I implore you, don't vote for Adam Smith. Obviously, we agree with that part, but vote for either Chowdhury or Sawant, vote for someone else. That makes zero sense, first of all, politically, because Melissa Chowdhury is not running anything like the campaign that we are. We are the only alternative to Adam Smith. But even just the basic electoral math does not make sense. If you divide up the votes between two candidates, who wins? It's Adam Smith who wins. So please, let's not make stupid mistakes. Let's understand the basic mathematics of elections and understand that the only way we can win is if we urge people to get behind our campaign, because it's the only campaign that's an alternative to Adam Smith. And I am also dead certain about another thing, is that it is only if our campaign proceeds to the general election that Adam Smith will be defeated. No other candidate is planning to defeat him, because they're not there to defeat him. They're not there to make enemies out of the establishment. They are there to build their own little careers. They're all there for their own little petty interests. And all their petty interests dictate that the establishment wants Adam Smith to win, so they're going to let him win. We, on the other hand, are on the other side of the class divide. And that is why we have to fight so that we can actually get into the general election. I look forward to seeing you at every possible canvassing and postering shift. Make sure your neighbors, your families, your co-workers, everybody knows about this campaign and understand why there is so much at stake and that they have to do everything possible from now until August 4th. Solidarity.
If you want independent news and commentary and more, this is the place. This is Risky Edges. My name is Andres Chang. We have no corporate sponsorship. We have no corporate money. It's just me, my tech guys. So please support us. Help us blow this up by smashing that like button, commenting, sharing, subscribing, turn on bell notifications. Thank you very much. Please support independent media. Thank you. Please support us on Patreon. We put nothing behind a paywall. So if you support us on Patreon, you are also helping those who can't support us on Patreon. Link in the description. Thank you.